We asked for a microphone, but I think the voice traveled in a small group, they don't do it. Yeah.
So you're on.
I saw, I waited.
She's around.
I know that, you gotta take advantage of that.
But it is,
I was looking, it was at 7:30, sitting there, and I've got.
I thought we would get started with our
I bet you there's some.
program. I hate to interrupt everybody's nice conversations, and if you're still enjoying your lunch, please feel free to do that. She'll go ahead and serve dessert as needed. But I thought we'd get started on this great topic today. Catherine will, I'm going to give you a little background on Catherine Krapanowski. Catherine graduated from UB with a BS in Marketing and Human Resources and an MBA in International Management and Marketing. She has been part of the Center for the Arts since 1994 and has been managing the Arts of Healthcare Initiative since its inception in 2008. So it's been here. Her responsibilities include bringing art programming to the patients, visitors, and staff of Roswell Park Cancer Institute and Women and Children's Hospital of Buffalo with the goal of enhancing the healthcare experience as well as physical and emotional well-being. She has been a contributor to many special programs including Explore the Arts, a theatrical program for youth. Music is Art Live at the Center, a television show featuring local artists and musicians, and Arts in Healthcare Summer Intensive, geared around educating individuals about the arts and healthcare field. Probably trying to get them interested in taking this as a study. Prior to UB, Catherine served as Director of Marketing for the Greater Buffalo Opera Company and was a consultant for the Giordano Dance School out of Chicago. Wow. So she is going to present to us, and I think we're going to learn a lot that I don't think I really knew about, so I'm looking forward to this. Catherine, thank you.
So much. So good afternoon. How are you? Thank you so much for being here today. I'm excited to share arts and healthcare with all of you, and I want to thank Planned Giving and Philanthropy for having us here today and giving us a chance to share all this information with you. I hope that you guys find it interesting. So, can you hear me okay? Okay. Our Arts and Healthcare Initiative, we established it in 2008, and it was established by the UB Center for the Arts and our Executive Director, Thomas Burrows, who's here with us today. Having attended a presentation on arts and healthcare at a performing arts conference, Tom returned to the Center for the Arts, transfixed with the idea of using the arts for stress reduction, healing, distraction, and communication in the healthcare environment. And he felt that the center and its staff experience, our community relations would make us an ideal leader in the Buffalo area in the movement. He immediately began working with several staff members on developing a program, and together we spent over a year on research, planning, partnership development, and funding inquiries, and we're extremely fortunate to receive a 3-year grant from the Oshai Foundation in the amount of $287,000. It supported the formation of the initiative at Women and Children's Hospital. Women and Children's Hospital ended up being our very first partner in the Arts and Healthcare Initiative. Soon after, Roswell Park Cancer Institute approached us about the initiative, indicating a strong desire to see the program in their hospital as part of their quality of life offerings. Dr. Donald Trump, President and CEO of Roswell, quickly understood the benefits of such a program for his institution and funded the first year of the program from his very own budget. So we often get asked, what is arts and healthcare exactly? So these are some photos of some activities that we've done in the hospitals. The Global Alliance for Arts and Health defines arts and healthcare as a diverse, multidisciplinary field dedicated to transforming the hospital healthcare experience by connecting people with the power of the arts at key moments in their lives. This rapidly growing field integrates the arts, including literary, performing, and visual arts, into a wide variety of healthcare and community settings for therapeutic, educational, and expressive purposes. Incorporating the arts into the patient healthcare experience has a positive impact on health outcomes by aiding in patients' physical, mental, and emotional recovery, including relieving anxiety and decreasing the perception of pain. Patients often feel out of control in the healthcare environment where their illness is the main focus and often lose their sense of self and community. Art can serve as a tool for healing, reducing stress and loneliness, and providing opportunities for self-expression and normalizing the environment. Research has shown that the arts can reduce the patient's use of pain medication and length of stay and improve compliance with recommended treatments, offering substantial savings in healthcare costs. Arts in healthcare also extends to caregivers, including the family, friends, and healthcare providers at hospitals and other facilities. These individuals also experience stress, depression, loss of identity and community while supporting and caring for their loved ones, family members, friends, all while trying to keep things together at home and at work. The arts offer caregivers many of the same benefits as the patients, helping them to integrate their own experiences and emotions, allowing for better coping and shared experiences with the patient outside of the realm of the illness. You know what I mean? Sorry, thank you. Arts in healthcare also benefits communities by engaging individuals in arts programs aimed at promoting prevention and wellness activities and communicating health information to improve knowledge. For students in the medical and other healthcare fields, the arts can enhance their skills by improving observational, diagnostic, and empathetic abilities. It helps them to understand a patient in a different way and connect them at a more humanizing level. Arts in healthcare is not art therapy or music therapy. The artists in residence have strong backgrounds in education in their art forms, but do not necessarily have therapy backgrounds. Artists are not working towards an outcome, treatment, or chart in patient records, but use the arts for therapeutic benefits. Regardless, the artists are seen as part of the patient care team and often see referrals from nursing staff and other specialties. In our program, some of the artists in residence are trained art therapists, but they don't practice that in the work that they do with us. To provide an overview of the Center for the Arts, Arts and Healthcare Initiative, I do have a video that I can share with you so you can see kind of it in action and get a little bit of a feel. So I'm just going to step over here and turn that on for you, if the technology works, because, you know.
Both of them have sickle cell disease, so seeing hospital.
Do you give painting lessons?
When they paint how they feel. They're letting you know, I'm in pain, or I feel better today, or I'm not feeling it. Helps them get out their feelings and emotions.
Having been diagnosed with cancer and have to go through all this treatment and all of that, you're sort of lose sense of yourself. What we've been doing with Sarah and Molly is guided meditation.
That serenity and peace, and hold it into your cells and let go.
It just empties all of the negative thoughts out and fills that space with a light.
You can get up, do arts instead of laying in your hospital bed all day, watching TV. You can do fun crafts.
Well, the Arts and Healthcare program, as we've put it in place here, is designed for a professional artist to use their creativity to engage a patient in a hospital or their family members or caregivers.
We have
people who write, we have people who act, we have directors and musicians and many visual artists.
I did a petal. I cut the petals out before I did mine. I had paint, and then it seemed like the paint seemed to release itself after you make some beautiful flowers. I think it's good for the body and soul, this art they have here.
We're all human beings. We're all creative. We all have a sense of imagination, a sense of wonder, and that is something that needs to, they really need that in a hospital environment to remember that they're not just a patient, they're not just an illness, that they are a whole human being.
When I was first diagnosed, I actually came and they asked me if I wanted to paint something.
All of a sudden, all the pain and the worry actually disappeared for a moment. It was really peaceful watching her. It was 30 minutes of no worrying for me. And 30 minutes is a long time when you're a parent who has a child with cancer. It's been really a pleasure to work with both hospitals and see the program evolve at both places. Social work might call us, or physical therapy might call us and say, we're having this situation with a particular patient, could you make sure you go see them? They're really all about communicating with us and trying to get the benefits of what we're doing for the patients that they see are the neediest.
They just offer so many great skills that we don't have, I know that I don't have personally. And the artists themselves have such great personalities, they all have different techniques and different strengths that they share with us.
I rose up this morning, smile with the rising sun.
It helps us to do our job better. And, it's a positive effect on us because if our patients are happy, then, we feel better about them and their situation.
I concentrate on this instead of concentrating on what's going on with the machine and what's going on with like the needles in my arm and stuff.
When a therapist comes in with artwork and tries to get the child to open up with that, it gives us more clues as to what's going on, which helps us actually with our medical therapy.
I think our hope for the Arts and Healthcare Initiative was always to have it be a comprehensive program, and to us that really meant that we had the presence in the hospital and that we were using the tools here at the center to do that, but also to expand into research and expand into education.
I wanted to be embraced in the performing and the visual arts areas. I would like a medical school to find ways to use this information and this approach to relieving anxiety and stress.
Jenny was in surgery yesterday, and I was in the waiting room, keeping myself occupied, and they had their rolling art supply cart and said, would you like to do some artwork?
These people sit and develop relationships and rapports, and it changes the whole hospital stay, really, really.
This one she folded completely differently, and the patterns are going to be completely different than this one.
She likes it so much that she volunteers at the hospital, and she actually put on her form that she wants to work with the artists in residence as part of her volunteering. It makes me happy as a mom because I see that she got so much from the program that she wants to give back.
I'm so thankful that this is a part of this hospital because I really don't know what I would have done without such a positive influence.
If we can really persuade our own community at every level of the importance that the arts and the power that the arts can have in our lives, especially at times of our greatest distress or conflict, then we will have accomplished something very important.
I would love to see it stay and evolve into even bigger and better things.
So I hope that gives you a nice introduction. It's emotional work. It really is. And I, every time I watch that video, it's powerful, and I do, think about a lot of those people I've had a chance to meet too. So you think about what they had to go through to get where they are today. So the Arts and Healthcare Initiative was modeled on a highly successful Center for Arts and Medicine program at the University of Florida. And they have one of the first arts and healthcare programs in the nation at the University of Florida Shands Hospital. And we continue to work closely with them on, how we develop and pay attention to things that they're doing, and use them kind of as our future guidepost for where we want to be. So, but the initiative was always envisioned as a comprehensive program made up of several components, including the Artists in Residence program, our Professional Touring Artist program, and then an education and research component. So the Artists in Residence program is the core of the Arts and Healthcare Initiative, and is currently comprised of 14 artists in residence, 4 of which will be starting shortly. We just recently hired some new artists for the program. The artists have been selected from Buffalo's vast cultural community and have extensive experience in music, dance, theater, literary arts, visual arts, and other creative forms. All the artists in the program are artists in their own right, exhibiting, performing, and teaching out in the community. By design, artists in residence work 10 to 20 hours a week in the initiative so that they have time to continue their own creative work, and also have an opportunity to have a release to that work. It's important to make the program that the artists maintain their creative selves, both to continue growth in the program offerings and for self-care and development. Artists work daily with patients, visitors, and staff in our partner hospitals, both at the bedside and in one-on-one interactions. They also work in groups in playrooms and waiting areas. Artists use the creative process to engage individuals, meaning it is rarely about the actual artistic outcome, but rather about the process of art making that distracts, changes the passage of time, or opens up communication. When one is immersed and focused on a project, it is difficult to think about anything else, offering a brief respite from the illness, the hospital, and any thoughts associated. Creative opportunities offered have included the creation of community quilts and family pillows, sing-alongs, drumming, poetry, storytelling and development, movement, painting of silk scarves, jewelry making, ceiling tile painting, meditation, and opportunities to participate in large-scale art installations. And I'll show you. So here, I threw in some photos. This was a project that we had some interns working with the artists in residence on, and it was a community project where they had these canvas panels. They had a design for the panels, and you kind of can see it here up at the top, what it kind of ended up looking like. But they went around and had patients and family members and visitors participate, and all it took was, people are always like, I'm not creative, I can't do that, but all it took was your fingerprint, and you just dipped it in the thing, and you filled in an area, and we made it very easy. And it's so easy that even the therapy dog can do it, and I don't think you can see him up there doing it up there. And then these are just some photos of the artists in residence in action. Up here, Carly's working with a visitor who became so engaged with our artists in residence when their grandchild was at the hospital that he went home and started making these wooden toy cars and brought them back for us to have available for patients to paint. So, so sometimes you think you're not making an impact at all and you're inspiring people to do other things. Over here we have one of our artists in residence writing a creative story with one of the patients, and here you see a couple creative activities going on. So, so you can see we can do group activities, we do these one-on-one bedside activities, and we work with patients, their families, siblings, visitors, and also we try and get the staff involved. So, sometimes staff will walk in and be like, what's going on here? And, if we're working on something where they might be able to add a quick mark, they check the vitals and they can kind of add something to a painting, we try and get them involved as well. Here's some of the projects that we've done. So I mentioned the quilts as one of the things that, a project that we've done. So this is a community quilt that we did for Roswell. And one of our artists in residence loves to work in waiting rooms there. And what she does is she goes in and she kind of has a very nice way about her and has kind of a fun attitude about what she's doing, always asks for help. She's kind of like, can you guys help me? I'm working on this big project. And we got patients and family members that are all in waiting rooms to contribute their handprint to the quilt. And a lot of them that you see, like you'll see ones that are touching, they're often people that know each other that came together to the hospital to support each other. You know, so they're family members and friends and visitors that, you know, know somebody that's there or that they're waiting for. So, and then this project here, on the previous slide you saw some people working on it, but that came to us over at the Ambulatory Surgical Center at Roswell. They came to us and they had a piece in that area that, due to its size and nature, kept getting hit by gurneys, and it was starting to get damaged, and they decided that they needed some new artwork for that area. So we worked with patients and nursing staff to create each of those individual panels, and then we put it together as an installation. And then the top one with the buffaloes, that's another kind of fingerprint project. This time we did it over at Children's. And that piece was actually used for a fundraiser during Festival of Trees. So we find different ways to work with the hospitals and the administration, but we also always include the patients in the kind of initiative. And we are very focused, like these are kind of very targeted projects, but our very focus is to give patients and their family members as much opportunity to make choices and to be in control. So we don't generally go in with an agenda. The artists usually go in and say, hey, how are you doing today? And you know, here's some things that I have. Are you interested in any of it? You know, it's not mandatory. It's really about putting control back into the patient's hands and giving them a chance to use the art for relaxation. And so we don't want somebody to feel stressed out that, oh my God, now I have to do this project, yeah. Or to feel like that they don't have an option to say no. So I wanted to share with you, just to give you a little bit of kind of feedback on what it's like to be an artist and how it feels and the kinds of things that they do. I'm going to read a little excerpt that Pravda Wood, she's an artist in residence, she's a visual artist over at Roswell. She had written up for me a while back, and I call it Arts and Healthcare in Action. And this is at the chemo infusion site that Roswell runs out here in Amherst. So she writes, I was a little nervous about the satellite today, not knowing how it would be. I kept telling myself that it was all about the creative process and being spontaneous and everything will be fine. I was pleasantly surprised how friendly the entire staff was. They were very welcoming and happy to have us there. When I scanned the room, I realized that I would be working the whole room since the layout makes you most visible, and it's important to be able to at least greet each person. I ended up doing all kinds of creative activities. Watercolor trees with a man who used to be a hockey player and had not painted since high school. But now, he was going to get his own paint set. Discussing the decline of bats with an older couple, which inevitably led to a bat drawing. Conversation with a railroad guy for 39 years from Alabama who cleans up after railroad accidents. His daughter then seemed to be inspired to learn more about him. A sweet older gentleman whose wife's hands were inflamed and bent from arthritis, but she made a necklace with those hands for her granddaughter. It took her a long time, but she really was in the creative process with the nodding and the color choices. Language and poetry with an older Russian couple. We taught each other words in our languages, and they asked me to write their names in my language. I made a sign with hearts and their name in Gujarati, which inspired him to read a love poem. This poem was then read to the nurses, who then thanked me because they never knew he was a poet. And he also thanked me and told me it had really lifted their mood. A little painting for Mary, for a woman who is now a patient, but had gone to Lourdes with her daughter, who had leukemia and found Mother Mary very inspiring. Now I made the whole round and I went back to the railroad guy who had said he would draw engines with me, but he was sleeping. However, I found a mother and daughter who had just begun their treatment, and they had enjoyed working with Anne, Anne's one of our other artists in residence, at the main hospital, And so they enthusiastically drew with pastels, creating postcards for their dog, Nick, and fish and other things to give to the grandkids, which then inspired their neighbor to also do a postcard. They were jolly and lifted the mood of everyone. Throughout this time, the nurses would come and look and join in the art appreciation. I did not get a chance to make anything for the nurses, but I know that they would definitely appreciate it. I found my crown making equipment too late. Veronica, the nurse, took me aside as I was leaving and thanked me very much and asked when I would be back. At this point, I thought I was done, but on my way out there was a little boy who was too scared to go into the waiting room. His mother told me he just didn't want to go in. The pipe cleaners in my bag finally found their use, and we made some little people. He became more relaxed through the process, and he was able to enter the waiting room. So, I wanted to read one more thing for you guys. This is a letter that we received from a mother of a patient that we worked with. And it really illustrates what arts and healthcare and the artists and residents can mean to people. So I'll read you a little bit of it. My daughter Carolyn was diagnosed in late April with a brain tumor. Her first surgery was May 1st of 2012. As a result of several complications, within a 6-week period, she underwent 8 surgeries. She is currently undergoing chemotherapy once a week for the next 15 months. My point in telling you all this is not about Carolyn's medical diagnosis specifically, but more importantly, the impact made by the artists we have encountered along this journey. Carolyn has had the benefit of working with several amazing artists while at Women and Children's Hospital of Buffalo. We have built stronger relationships with 2 in particular, Carly and Carla. Their sincere interaction with Carolyn extends far beyond that of any artist working with a sick child, but speaks more to the integrity and character of their overall being. On countless occasions, while we consulted with doctors regarding Carolyn's care, the artists were there to interact and create with her, keeping her focus on her overall positive mental well-being. When she had to remain on her back for over a week, the artists came with unconventional ways to still encourage her to remain active. They collaboratively facilitated OT and PT therapists in their sessions with Carolyn. On more than one occasion, as we waited to go into surgery, family and friends visiting were included in art creations, creating a sense of peace and calmness, not to mention a memorable piece of art. In another account, a piece of art was left hanging, awaiting Carolyn after surgery. Encounters such as this made an overwhelming difference not only to Carolyn, but to her loved ones as well. When determining her chemotherapy schedule, we took into account the schedules of the artists, and without reminder, they arrived each and every week. They have played an integral part in her recovery process. The chemo has caused some neuropathy in Carolyn's hands, and the artists have been strategic in encouraging her hand movements. When I think about the journey our family has been on, I am in awe of so many individuals that give selflessly of themselves. Some paid positions, some volunteers, but all having a heart for children. The impact of a program such as this offers so much more than just a finished product. Through our experiences, we feel strongly that a program such as this is a necessary and integral part of the healing process for children going through difficult medical circumstances. So that's a little bit about what the artists and residents do and why they're the core of our program. This is like a little drawing that was done by a patient, and she wrote a little note to Anne, one of our artists and residents, thanking her for working with them on some stars and boxes that they made, and how the siblings now want to meet her. And then I think this was one of the siblings kind of writing back, writing to say, I love the line that says, talk about fun in the hospital. We don't ever think that the hospital is going to be fun. Will you please tell me what days you work here? So another component of the Arts and Healthcare Initiative is the Professional Touring Artists Program. And it really gives us the chance to enhance each hospital arts offerings, and is a component that allows the Center for the Arts to use our strength in arts presentation for the benefit of the initiative. The Center for the Arts has access to national and international performances, and it is extremely exciting to bring these performers into the hospital environment for any amount of time. We choose performances suitable for a broad audience and work with the performers to tailor presentations to the hospital setting, allowing those who, due to illness or disability, would otherwise be unable to experience the live performing arts. Over the course of the life of the program, we have presented a number of events in the hospital, including several renowned dance companies. And I've listed some of the events there. A favorite example of the Professional Touring Artist Program is our collaboration with the New York City-based Doug Marrone and dancers. In the spring of 2012, we hosted the company for a unique 2-week residency. Previous to this, our touring artists spent maybe part of a day at each hospital, focusing more on kind of performing for larger groups of patients and caregivers. But with Doug Marrone and dancers, we were able to host the company in the hospital for an entire week, and they were able to be guided by the artists and residents in visiting with patients, allowing for more intimate and meaningful interactions. The dancers were split into 3 teams and visited patient rooms, waiting areas, and playrooms. During visits, the dancers would be introduced and often performed, but the goal of the project was to get the hospital population involved in choreography. Instead of paints and canvas, drums, or papers and pens, the dancers were the tools that the patients could work with. Through a series of questions and prompts, the dancers were able to translate patient answers, comments, or stories into movement. Patients would then provide feedback on the movements and whether they correctly represented what they were trying to say. Having an opportunity to change the movements and direct the dancers, in essence, they were creating choreography that represented them or their own story. These movements were then brought back to the Center for the Arts, and the company worked in the afternoons to workshop the movements, and it culminated in the creation of 2 new choreographic works. Those works were premiered at their concert at the Center for the Arts for the public. At the end of the residency, the company returned to the hospital to visit with some of the participants and updated them on the new piece, showing them what had been created. They also performed in the lobby at Roswell and in a playroom at Women and Children's. This particular project was funded by the National Endowment for the Arts, with the goal of not only bringing professional touring artists to the hospital, but to inspire the creation of new work based on the hospital experiences. And I do have a video about the Doug Marrone project, which illustrates it way better than me telling you about it. So.
Merrily, 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 life is gonna be fun.
When an artist walks into a hospital room, you kind of wonder, how is this possibly helping? How can it make a difference? But it definitely does, and I see it every single day. I see that people do get transformed.
The NEA concept was, okay, we already have an arts and healthcare initiative in the 2 hospitals, Roswell Park and Women and Children's. What else can we do? How can we add on to it? We had a previous relationship with Doug Marrone and dancers. We knew them well enough personally to have a sense that they would be excellent communicators and representatives of professional dance in the hospitals.
A dancer would move to a place and we would ask the patient, what happens next? And they would say, well, I would like Alex to place his hand on Aaron's shoulder. And then they would begin to tell a story based in the architecture of how bodies were moving and the emotional kind of element that was happening as a result of that. So without realizing it, they were creating a dance.
Sometimes there would be children that we would work with, and we would walk in the room and Doug would say, oh, I see you're working on a jigsaw puzzle. How do you think the dancers might fit together if they were puzzle pieces?
The design of the project was for them to gather all these choreographic elements and create the dance in that 2-week period and debut it at the center as part of the culminating public performance. they captured these movement ideas in the rooms with their own small handheld flip cams.
Love this. Totally in the world we're in.
There was a very sweet, amazing girl that I got to meet. She was just like lit up when we got in the room, and she was so excited to have us there. Despite some sad news that she had heard that day, we managed to get her and her mom to sing a duet together.
It was such a joy to meet these people, and they wanted to cooperate with us and be a part of this process.
I thought the performance was really powerful. I got the sense that people really grasped what we were trying to do.
This is my first experience with arts and healthcare, and I was just blown away. I was so impressed.
I think it's amazing. And I think it should be a model program for every other institution. The good that they're doing is phenomenal. It was really quite an honor to be part of that for the week.
So the NEA grant that funded the Doug Marrone Dancers Project was the first grant by the NEA for the Center for the Arts. And part of that first grant also funded cellist Stephen Katz, and he came in the fall of 2012. He also did a 2-week residency. And he, being a musician, he worked more one-on-one, individually, with patients and family members, and often did performances for them, but also interacted and kind of captured their stories through audio files, and he would kind of create like little riffs based on what they were talking about. Stephen's experiences also culminated in a performance at the Center for the Arts that was focused on his hospital experiences and his reaction to it, and also the beginning of a new piece that he would continue to build on. The idea of bringing these professional artists into the hospital environment achieved many goals. Not only did we want to impact the hospital population with a one-of-a-kind opportunity to interact with touring artists of the highest level, but also wanted to provide the touring artists with a unique experience to feed their creative process and artistic goals. Through new inspiration and relations, the touring artists created works based on their immediate reactions to their new experiences, but it is hoped that these involvements will continue to inform their work in the future. For the individuals in the hospitals, participating used the creative process not only for distraction or diversion, but also to show them that even through serious illness and life-altering situations, they can contribute to a greater work where their thoughts, feelings, and stories are important and honored. This year, we replicated the dance portion of the project with the Marrone Dance Company and are about to start a music component with musician Stuart Fuchs. Once again, we're so lucky to be funded by the National Endowment for the Arts, and sometimes it's very hard to get 2 grants out of them in the way that we were able to. So we're very excited. Marrone was like, they were similar to Doug Marrone, but very different. They kind of had a very different concept for how they were gonna do the work, and it was interesting to see 2 different creative processes in the hospital. And then you'll see some of these photos are some of our other visiting artists that we've had. And actually this is Marrone, the lower one right here is the Marrone Dance Company, and we did more group work with them, and that's on the pediatric unit over at Roswell. And the nurses help us gather the patients, and we bring them all, like, that's literally like one of the nursing stations in the back of the unit, and we brought everybody down, and we had all the kids and family members help choreograph some new pieces. Another component of the Arts and Healthcare Initiative is education and research. We strongly feel, as an entity that is part of the University of Buffalo community, we feel that it is important for the initiative to have an educational as well as a research component. Students in the arts, medicine, and health-related professions would benefit tremendously from having an opportunity to learn about how the arts can contribute to the health and well-being of individuals. We hope to build on this concept within the university and are focused on some areas that present growth opportunities for the initiative. The first one is our summer intensive in arts and healthcare. The summer intensive began 7 years ago as a way to train the first artists in residence for the initiative, but has now grown into an annual 2-week program for artists, administrators, students, and anybody else that might be interested in the field. The summer intensive offers both introductory and advanced practitioners hands-on workshops in various art forms, including the visual arts, music, writing, and theater. Lectures on relevant topics, including the history of arts and healthcare, because it goes way back, arts and healthcare around the world, and then current practices in the field are also presented. In addition, the program offers roundtable discussions and review of the current literature in the field. Most importantly, we use the Arts and Healthcare Initiative to provide hands-on hospital experiences for participants, providing an opportunity to apply what they have learned in workshops and classroom activities to the actual environment. And there really aren't a lot of opportunities. You know, there are other arts and healthcare programs out in the country right now, but there aren't a lot of opportunities to get your hands in it, you know, even if you're thinking about it. So putting that kind of aspect into our summer intensive was very important. During the second week, these hands-on experiences inform group discussion, allowing for a deeper understanding of the practice in the field. Another component are internships. We offer internships to students that are interested in learning more about what the artists in residence do and how they apply their creative skills in the hospital environment. University students are often looking to enhance their educational experience, and experiential learning is becoming more and more important component of student education. Interns from the Department of Theater and Dance and the Department of Art have participated in the program, looking for alternative ways to use their creative skills, while interns from programs such as social work, psychology, and public health are trying to find ways to incorporate their creative side into the work that they are pursuing. The humanities are becoming a more important component of medical and health-related education, and the arts and healthcare can help these students view the healthcare environment, patients, and their families through a different lens. Collaboration with academics. The initiative has a desire to build more educational opportunities with various university academic departments, including the arts department, social work, nursing, medicine, health-related professions, pharmacy, physical therapy, occupational therapy, and psychology, just to name a few. Currently, we are investigating options for an introductory course in arts and healthcare based on the summer intensive model that would be potentially housed in the Department of Theater and Dance. Ideally, this course would be cross-listed across various arts and health sciences departments, providing educational opportunities to a broad array of students. The classroom work teamed with internships would provide a strong understanding of the arts and healthcare field and its contribution to healthcare, the healthcare environment, and the wellness and health of patients. A class of this sort would also have interprofessional implications by bringing students together from a variety of disciplines, allowing for discussion of how arts and healthcare can be incorporated into each discipline that's being represented in that particular class, and how the specialties can work together through the arts in the professional environment. We are also interested in research, and healthcare, as we all know, is based in the scientific exploration, and in order to grow and gain acceptance, the arts and healthcare field must be able to present results in a scientific way. While research in the field is growing, prospects to explore the impact of arts and healthcare and health are abundant. The Center for the Arts has embarked on a couple program-specific small research projects on the initiative in order to provide support for the program, including a surveying of program participants before and after art interactions, measuring their mood and effect. This particular survey showed that patients who participated in art intervention were happier, more relaxed, less anxious, felt more content, and felt that the art contributed to these feelings. While this exploration was very preliminary, it did point to a broad range of topics that could be explored. And by offering classes and internships, interest in this exploration should grow by students and researchers alike, increasing the profile of the program, university, and the field. For the future, we hope to see a kind of Center for the Arts and Healthcare where researchers, academics, students, artists, administrators, health professionals, and community members can come together to increase the understanding of the field, provide tools and training, and help the arts and health become a standard across the region and the nation. I want to thank you all for listening so attentively, and I'd be thrilled to take any questions you might have. Yes.
You made a big point of saying that this is not therapy.
Yeah.
So tell me what therapy is if this is not therapy.
So we always say, oh, Tom, you want to comment, Tom?
Good question.
Well, in the simplest form, the answer to your question is a therapist is looking for a clinical result. We're not.
But if what you're measuring is a change in stress, a change in mood, a change in attitude, isn't that a clinical result?
It's therapeutic. We think the result is therapeutic. There are therapeutic aspects to what the artists do interacting with the patient in the hospital, using their creative energy and talent to engage the other person, to take them out of themselves. But we're not looking for a predetermined change or clinical result that affects their health. Therapists are trained to make changes in the individual. They're looking for a way to improve something about their situation. And we never claim that with artists and residents.
Okay, that you don't claim it, I understand. That it actually is a result of it, is sort of a serendipitous, isn't this swell kind of a deal?
We feel that, yes, we feel that there are good therapeutic outcomes,
Okay,
but it's not our purpose.
okay.
Yeah, it's an interesting like double-edged like sword. You know, those that practice art therapy and music therapy, you know, they've got specialized degrees in that area, you know, not only in their creative art form, but also in the therapies so that they can marry those two things. And for us, I think you're right. Yeah, there is a clinical outcome, and we know we're seeing it on a daily basis, but, you know, are we treating it as an actual therapy and, you know, charting in the record and, you know, if a patient happens to be depressed and we realize, oh, well, this art interaction lifted their spirits, yeah, we might see that, but that's not showing up in any kind of record, and we're not using that interaction to build on other interactions to help with the depression, if that makes sense.
No, very much so, thank you.
Yeah, along those same lines, I was thinking the same thing as you when I heard music therapy. Well, I'm involved in music, but not music therapy.
Sure.
And I know that we get the same thing when we rehearse on a Saturday morning and spend 2 hours or an hour and a half just practicing.
Right.
For eventually to play. Yes, we have a goal. But we go out and there, people say, I hate getting up on Saturday morning, but I love to go home, I'm so relaxed.
Right.
So basically
totally
what you're
true.
saying is you're doing it for fun.
Right.
And not for a grade.
But I think too, in the healthcare environment, it is important to prove the value of the work, right? Yeah. So you might be looking at clinical outcomes. You know, we could very easily, I quote, very easily, you know, we could set up a study that measures heart rate before and after a art interaction. And that's going to give us, you know, some kind of clinical basis for, yeah, the arts are good for these, you know, for this individual or these individuals. But, you know, so I think that my point that I was going to say is that it's important in the healthcare environment to be able to prove what those like outcomes are, whether, you know,
anytime
whether
anybody gives you money, they want you to prove.
Well, and I think what people, you know, want to, and that's true, right? Like, we're, you know, the way we're getting funded for these programs, people want to know that people are benefiting from it. So.
You have proven it to be a very important component.
Oh, thanks.
I believe research should be done brain-wise, now that we can see in the brain what is actually happening, not only in the healthcare, in the education system. Do you see whenever budgets come up, what are we going to cut?
Yep.
And we do know it, as speech therapists know it, and people who stutter, children who are delayed in speaking, that music can help
absolutely
circumvent
true.
that problem. But we really need support in this, and we need actual research and data.
Right.
I know I just read something about handwriting being dispelled. Now, only kindergarten and first graders are going to be taught handwriting. The rest is going to be all typing. But now research has been done in Alabama, at the university there, looking at the brain, showing that handwriting has an impact on the brain, whereby connections, recognition, and developing better reading skills and understanding. And when they looked at the typing aspect, no impact was made on the brain. But I am concerned, I know about studies being done, I was university trained in education. I know of the studies that have been done and proven of the results, developmentally what we should be doing. But we are not doing that in the public sector. I wonder, why isn't the university having a stronger voice in implementing the things that we have proven through research?
Right.
And we have education out there doing this to our children who are going to have an impact later on in their life.
Yeah, I'm in total agreement, and that's not because, so far my career has been focused on the arts, and I personally love the arts, and I think we have a lot of people that love the arts, but somehow it's always like the first thing that people are like, oh, I don't know if you really need it. Let's cut it out of education, and let's cut it out of this program, and we need more time for these other things. But I think in terms of education or as human beings, it's important to have all those components. And I think that's why for us, like the arts and healthcare feels like such a strong thing and makes sense when you put it in like a healthcare environment. It's really about letting people connect back to being human beings. We're creative every day. We're surrounded by arts every day, whether it's, what you're putting together. I always call the way I dress is my art form is what I tell my artists in residence. But, we've all got a piece of creativity. It's about being a human being. And, when we start cutting that out, we'll start losing the humanity of it all, so.
Well, you're proving it being therapeutic.
Right.
But the research should be getting involved in this, the brain research getting involved in it.
So we can bring it back around.
And then say, this is a very important component. It needs to be here.
Yeah, I agree.
You go into a store, in a shopping mall, and I have an autistic grandson.
Okay.
And I know that when he walks into a store, he has the same feeling as I do, and I don't have the problem, but it helps him. When you go into some of them and they have this loud, horrendous din going on, my daughter would turn to me and she'd say, Mom, I know we can only shop here for a little while. But you walk into a store where they have nice background music, or classical, semi-classical, popular classical music playing, we could stay there for hours.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was calmed by the music enough to sit there and
right.
try
It's
on
not
all the
creating
stuff.
anxiety in you, right?
And spend money.
And that's actually a
but I
very
think
interesting point.
Yeah.
That's also something that we have to consider no matter what the environment is, but we also have to consider it in the healthcare environment. And we train the artists to be very conscientious of what's going on in the rooms next door as well as out in the hall, because just because you're having a great raucous time in one room doesn't mean that the person next door is enjoying it. So there is a balance, and it can, just as it can be good, it can create some anxiety too. So you have to be very aware of what's going on in the surrounding.
As I say, my grandson has the same idea as I. He walked in one time to the store, they were playing this lovely classical piece, and John was one of his, can we stay here a little longer? He says, you sound just like your grandmother.
Well, I'm a retired nurse, and I worked at Roswell Park for 25 years, starting in 1963. And they had a little bit like this, only by volunteers that would come in every once in a while. Some talented staff that would play the guitar or sing or dance. And I could just see how the patients responded. And it's just wonderful. So I think this program is wonderful in helping them so much more.
Thank you.
Well, in case you need some visibility at the university, which is always good publicity, I have a therapy dog.
Oh.
And we don't measure outcomes either, but one of the things we did was during exam week, there were a whole bunch of us that came with therapy dogs to the libraries.
I remember
And
that story.
students just played with the dog. You might during exam week, I mean, I
great
know
idea.
that the math department would love to have.
I love it. That would be so
just,
fun.
Just come and do something, and that, I mean, I think that would be a low risk, high visibility opportunity for you to, for everybody else to see. Because especially, I mean, I'm a mathematician, and I get a little bit annoyed with the narrow focus on you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this, because that makes you just a very boring person. And to get students to do something other than this is what I need to do, this is how I need to do it, this is the job I'm going to get, this is where I'm going to work. You say, wait a minute, the whole point of coming to school is to get a bigger view of the world, and it would be enormously helpful, I think.
Yeah, I would love to do that. That's a fabulous idea. We'll have to come up with a plan. It's not too far away, but it's like long enough away that we can
I've
do
been
it.
volunteering at Weinberg campus quite a number of years.
Okay.
Two things I can think of to reinforce the therapy dog. They are invariably get a reaction.
Yeah.
And the other event annually is these little girls that Irish dancers.
Yes. Oh my God, everyone loves that.
I mean, talk about activity and the clapping and the kid. I mean, it really is contagious.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Yeah, like the beat and the motion and the energy from them.
Yeah.
You can't replicate that,
So we're looking at, this could be expanded into the elderly, Alzheimer situations.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that.
I would love to expand our program, but because it would be so good in some of our people who have in life care centers. It would be marvelous to have 2 or 3 artists coming in periodically to work with the people there. But we do what we do. We know that the work we're doing can be the subject of research. And there has been a lot of research done on the impact of this kind of involvement. We're just doing our part of it.
Sure.
We're training artists to engage patients in the hospital setting, to give them some distraction, some relief, lift them out of themselves a little bit for a period of time, to make their stays in the hospital a little less onerous, and for children as well. It works so beautifully at Women's and Children's Hospital. So we take it as far as we can, and that's what we can do. Now, others could take this much further. And had we the money, we could easily train. We could easily train people to go into nursing homes.
Yeah.
And it would have a very positive impact, I know. I would love to have, as they do in Florida, they have about 20 artists working in their marvelous hospital there. And you can see the impact, there's no question about its value. So we just do what we do.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, one more interruption here. I have a handbell choir. I direct a handbell choir.
That's fun.
And we take our handbell choirs into nursing homes and assisted living facilities. And it's absolutely amazing because people that come down, they come down in wheelchairs, they come down on crutches, they come down with walkers, and they sit there and they recognize something maybe 30 years ago or 40 years ago or 60 years ago that they used to sing when they were little or not so little, and it brings them right out of their whatever they're in at that point. And it's such a wonderful thing to be playing a song and all of a sudden, Cohan, you hear some behind you humming and singing, and then you turn around and you say, come on, sing with us. And it's just a marvelous marvelous thing to see. And this is the same thing that you're getting, and not measuring, like I know, real measure. But you're getting this in the hospitals, and it's an absolutely wonderful thing to do.
Are our
It's been
legislators,
totally,
are our legislators ever involved, ever brought in to see people who can deviate money to this program?
That has never happened yet in our program.
I mean, they should just be presented here so that we start expanding the interest and the need for this component.
That's a great idea. Yeah. I think so. Go ahead,
this
sir.
has been almost totally good news. Have you had any experience of inappropriate behavior on the part of some of the artists relative to the kind of person they're dealing with?
Knock on wood. No. You know,
Put it another way, do you do an orientation about what not to say, what not to do, don't express?
Absolutely.
That's what I'm getting at.
yes. So all our artists and residents participate in our summer intensive, and that is a very nuts and bolts kind of educational experience. So we teach them a lot about you know, how to enter rooms. We've talked about religious kind of connotations. You know, we run into patients at both hospitals that, you know, might be Mennonite or, you know, of other religions. So trying to be very conscientious of, you know, what's allowable and not allowable in those kind of religions. Simple, you know, things just as simple as, you know, you want to, as you develop relationships, you know, the artists may, you know, at Roswell, actually at both hospitals, I have artists who have been with the program from the very beginning, and they still see patients that they've been seeing for 7 years. So it's hard to not become familiar at some point, but there's also rules. Like, you're not hopping on somebody's bed. You know, this is their home for the time that they are in the hospital. So you have to honor and respect that, you know, you are a guest in their space. So we go through all of those kinds of things and do that as part of the training. And, you know, we just hired 4 new artists, and, you know, they've gone through the training. I'm trying to get them cleared to work in the hospitals, and as soon as they're cleared, they're going to also partner with our kind of veteran artists and residents so that they can get, like, the lay of the land a little bit and really understand. I got to tell you, though, and maybe Tom probably agrees with me, when we did the initial search, we started with 12 artists and residents initially. We received, I think it was 80 some odd applicants. We interviewed 30 some odd of them in very quick, like, short back-to-back interviews. And out of the original 12, we only had to let go of 1. Like, some have left because of other reasons. And it's really about the choice. And somehow you have to, it's a personality thing. Like, you know, just because you're an artist or an educator doesn't make you a good candidate to work in the hospital. You know, you have to be able to leave your own baggage at the door. You have to be able to give completely of yourself. And you have to be open to what those experiences are. And it's interesting because we've been very careful to try and, you know, even in this most recent hiring, you know, we had several really great candidates, and a few of them just didn't make the cut. You know, as I watched them over the course of the 2-week training, we made them go through the training, and I was like, you know what, I'm just not sure that this is going to work. So I hate to say that part of it's like a gut thing, but it kind of is. Yeah. Like, you kind of have a feeling.
That was my point.
Yeah. So, but you have to choose the right people, and we're very careful of that. This isn't about, I would rather have fewer artists than, like, put artists in there that I don't think are going to do a good job or could cause problems for the program.
I'm interested in the impact on the artists and their work outside of the program to, you know, both the financial impact of giving them the assistance, which I'm sure they appreciate financially, but also how it's affected the work that they bring into the community at large.
Sure.
You raise a very important point. Number one, we let them know when they're interviewed, before they, even with our summer intensive, that when we select an artist for the program, we tell them, you're not going to do your art in the hospital. You can use your art and your education to assist that person you're dealing with. We only let you work 20 hours a week. We don't have anyone who works more than that. We want them to continue their own art outside the hospital, continue with their careers, whatever they may be. Have time with their families, have time for their own art, and give us 20 hours, which we pay them modestly for. And we want someone who understands those parameters, who really wants to do this work with people, and to leave their own egos and their art outside the door. That's really what it comes down to. We value them for what they are. And we value them even more if they can allow themselves to participate in a program of this kind and be giving to the person that they're dealing with.
To comment on the impact that it's had on their own work, I think for me, there's our most recent example is Barbara Murak.
Oh, that's
and
wonderful.
some of you may know her. She's a textile artist who's had shows in many other galleries, but does a lot of things here in the area.
She's also one of our arts therapists.
Yeah, she has an art therapy background, actually. So we do have some artists that have art therapy backgrounds. We just don't do it in the hospital. So she recently put up a show up at Buffalo Art Studio, and she was telling me that when she had the curator come to her house to look at the pieces to choose what was going to go in the show, the curator looked around and said, here's what, I want these pieces, and let's say it was like 10 or 12 of them that they chose. And when Barbara looked at them and she said, I couldn't believe it, but every single one of those pieces was created after an experience that she couldn't really let go of from the hospital. And so the way she deals with that is to come home and create a piece honoring that particular interaction. And it was funny to her that this curator must have picked something up on it, and she chose only the pieces that were related to her work at the hospital. And I will say that many of them do that kind of thing. A lot of them, when they've kind of had a hard day, they're using, the way we're using the art for the patients, they're using it for themselves. And that's also another reason that I personally feel that artists do have a heightened sensitivity, and I think that's another reason that, these aren't full-time jobs, they're part-time jobs, so that they can deal with those emotions and work through them. And I think that, a lot of people in the healthcare environment could use some time to do that and aren't allotted that time, right? A nurse might have just lost somebody and has to turn around and go work with another patient. So we try and watch out for a little bit of that too, if we can insert anything for the staff too, because it, I think everybody needs a little bit of that. So, does that answer your question? Any other questions or comments?
No, my question was answered. Thank you. Very interesting.
Wow.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. It was so fun to present to you. And please, if you have any questions, Lorraine knows where to find us, so she can share our email with you and that kind of thing.
Well, as a